They did take a few questions. Only the prosecutor responded to the questions. At one point, somebody tried to ask Superintendent Carter a question, and Nick said he's not going to be answering right now. I'm answering the questions. And the question that I had was, throughout this process, they have said they can't clear all these other men that they looked at, some of the men that the defense talked about, other men, Braun Logan, Kegan Kline. And so that was my question, was now can you clear those men? You have caught the person that you say did this by himself. You have sentenced him to 130 years. Are those other men cleared? And it was an interesting response.
Now mean that all the other men are cleared? Can you use that word?
Who is all the other men?
The other men that were looked at during the course of the investigation that you always said we couldn't say that they're cleared. Can you now say they're cleared?
I may not use that word cleared, but what I can tell you is we don't have any other evidence that ties them to the offense at this time.
And I asked Superintendent Carter about that when I had a chance to talk to him one-on-one after that press conference. Here's what he had to say.
We don't say clear to anybody. I appreciate the question. I appreciate it when you asked it in there. Human behavior is kind of interesting, isn't it? It's fascinating. And just because this trial is over, other than the appeal process, which is okay, that doesn't mean that somebody's not going to come forward and give us some additional information of what occurred maybe before the murders.
And that's rather interesting, what occurred before the murders. That was something I wanted to hear during the trial. What was exactly going on for Richard Allen in his head? What was going on in his life? And that was something we did not hear at trial. We only heard about what he did that day leading up to the murders. And so I think there's still a lot of unanswered questions for a lot of people, Vinny, that, I asked Superintendent Carter also, is the tip line going to stay open? And he said yes.
Thank heavens the FBI was engaged with us, with the Orion system and the expertise that the FBI brought from all over the country to allow us to manage that kind of data. We've had inquiries and requests for discussion from agencies all over the country, not only because this is such a high-profile case, but because of the complexities associated with the time since we found their bodies a year ago tomorrow.
That they believe that white supremacist members of this Odinistic cult are responsible for the murders. And I asked him about that. And here's a little bit of what he had to say.
I thought it was hocus pocus. I honestly didn't, I'd never heard of it. And the more I got into it, that's a real thing. It is a real thing, and it's scary.
In what way?
Well, I believe they sacrificed a girl and killed another one. Some of the people that live in Delphi were very brazen about their Odinistic beliefs on their Facebook pages and other social media accounts, including the sergeant who was in charge of keeping Mr. Allen safe in Westville.
You described one of those officers that's mentioned in one of Rosie and Baldwin's filings, Sergeant Jones, who was wearing patches that said, "In Odin we trust," on his Department of Corrections uniform.
Yep.
The judge ordered the warden to make them stop. And then what did you notice?
That Mr. Jones had it tattooed under his right eye. From the best we can tell, it looks a lot like Odin's spear. And he had several tattoos on his forearms, including the interlocking triangles that are on his Facebook post. I got to give credit to Mr. Rosie and Mr. Baldwin that, they picked up on that. We saw him, and, confinement officers at the Allen County Jail aren't even allowed to have facial hair, let alone facial tattoos. I was a little miffed that the warden allowed that.
I said before, and I'm confident I'll say again, I hope that one day when we all meet Abby and Libby that they tell us you did well. That's my hope. We cannot allow evil to prevail. Our world is completely out of balance, and we cannot allow that to prevail. I've said all along that we, as an agency, will be here as long as I'm breathing and as long as Governor Holcomb allows me to continue to stay in the position that I hold. I have the opportunity to brief him regularly. This isn't about how many hours we spend. It's not about how much it costs. It's about every single asset that the ISP has we will give to this sheriff, this community, and to each and every one of you. Because I refuse to accept evil as a standard bearer in American society. Not here.
What kind of haircut do you have, Karen? I mean, I'm really gonna piss you off. So you don't like my hat? You think I'm the murderer because I'm wearing this hat, right? Well, how about this hat? Does this hat trigger you?